Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Every time I say it, it's going to suck even more.
May I present to you the cat?
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I'm your host tonight, Caleb, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And no, Wes. He is unfortunately ill and has lost his voice, and we decided we didn't want to sit here listening to Wes just quietly scratching away in the background for the entire podcast. So he is not with us today. We will excuse him, at least partially, because I'm not aware of Microsoft having done anything particularly interesting in the past week, 2 weeks.
You mean
Are
like
you?
5 years? Oh.
Remotely interesting ever.
They did some interesting stuff over the years, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they had an MP3 player that looked like a chocolate bar. That was kind of strange.
They had a phone for a minute.
There was a phone for about a minute.
And that's about it.
That's the most dismissive statement. They were making smartphones before Apple was, I suppose, you know, like credit where credit is due, but they were just copying BlackBerry at the time. All right. We have a few items of tech news, listener, but not a ton. It's a small number of things. Landon, you're going to start us off by talking about an Android phone with Qi 2.
Yeah. It's about freaking time, right?
Yes.
I mean, this should have happened in January with Samsung, but it didn't. And then it should have happened a month ago with the Pixel phones, but it didn't. So here we are. We're talking about a phone that, listener, you're probably not going to buy. You probably never would have heard of had we not mentioned it on this phone. It's the HMD Skyline. And honestly, I wouldn't have heard about it unless it had Qi 2, which it does. And this phone, it's a mid-range phone. It's $500. It's got mid-range specs because, again, $500. HMD. The company that now owns the naming rights of BlackBerry didn't call this a BlackBerry phone because they've kind of let that ship sail because it just doesn't work anymore. But
apparently also Nokia, according to their website.
Maybe that's who it is. Maybe it's not BlackBerry, but it is Nokia.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was both of them. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. But HMD, this phone, it's nothing special. I'm not even going to go over the specs. And like I said, the literal only reason I'm talking about it is because a company that you haven't heard of is the first one on the Android side of things to bring you a phone with Qi 2. Why it wasn't Samsung, I don't know. Why it wasn't Google, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they obviously don't have reasons either.
Because Qi 2 doesn't offer any tangible benefits, remember? Google told you.
I completely forgot about that. Obviously, none of the accessories that I've bought for my, MagSafe phone are beneficial.
No tangible benefits.
Yeah. But if you are curious, if you do want this phone, I guess you can look it up. Like I said, the HMD Skyline. It's not a bad looking phone. It's very it actually kind of resembles an iPhone, which, I mean, what phone doesn't at this point? It's got the square camera bump on the back. It's got flat edges. It comes in black or neon pink, which is it's a very pink phone. Like I said, $500. You can buy it right now from different places. It is available on Amazon, or you can go to the HMD's website themselves and get it there. The one thing that they are touting with this phone is it's super, well, maybe not super, but it's a lot more repairable than other phones. Like, you can easily replace the screen or the battery or different things like that. So that is a benefit, I guess, on this phone, whereas other phones are a little more difficult. Although more and more phones are becoming easier to repair. But yeah, HMD Skyline phone. it's got Qi 2. So if that's the main selling point for you for buying a new phone, I'll save you some money. Get the $500 one instead of getting a $800 to a $1,200 flagship phone from anybody else that doesn't have Qi 2.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say, it's an interesting looking phone. Those corners, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, why would you have the corners of the display rounded, but then have the frame of the phone stick up that much? Like, what on earth?
Yeah, some companies that make Android phones are interesting.
Yeah, where is this company from? Like, this has given me strong, like, Norway vibes.
I mean, Nokia,
Finland.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Nokia was from Finland, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, they are a Finnish brand. Interesting.
And if you think about it, a lot of the Nokia Windows phones had a very similar design.
They did actually. Yes. No, it's true. That's true.
Maybe
so,
HMD
if you're harkening
was the
back
company,
for like.
I'm starting to wonder if HMD was the company that actually made the phones for Nokia back in the day, like manufactured them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're probably doing their manufacturing out of China. Let's be honest. Everybody is. But yeah, that's it's interesting, actually. I've never even heard of the brand before. And it's bizarre to me that they are definitely affiliated with Nokia. It's pretty blatant right on their website.
Yeah.
But none of the phones that they were advertising there carried Nokia branding. So
they've only made a couple Nokia branded phones over since they bought the Nokia naming rights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they were all dumb phones too, aren't they? Like, have they even made any Nokia branded smartphones?
They've made a couple. I think at least one I can remember. I don't remember exactly what the name of it was, but it was a Nokia Android phone out for a while. At least one, maybe two. But yeah, they haven't. You would think that you have the name of Nokia at your disposal. It's a very popular brand. You'd think you would use it over HMD, which is, I mean, very few people know the name HMD, but everyone knows Nokia. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Choices were made, not maybe the best ones.
It's strange. Well, all right. So that's that. Progress is being made in the world of Android phones in that regard, at least.
Finally.
Somebody else needs to make progress on something else soon. Otherwise, boy, we're in for a rough time. Speaking of progress, ? A new bill in California. Landon, tell us about this.
Yeah, so a new bill that will be going into effect in 2025. I can't remember exactly when in 2025, sometime springtime, summertime-ish. Will basically make it so it'll be as easy to cancel a subscription to something, whether it be like Amazon or Netflix or anything like that, as it is to sign up for said subscription platform. Because as of right now, if you try to sign up for something, they make it super easy for you to sign up for anything. Like Adobe, for instance, makes it really easy. They are also notorious for making it extremely difficult to cancel that subscription. And this new bill in California makes it so it has to be as easy to cancel your subscription from these companies as it is to sign up for these subscriptions. And I absolutely love that. Now, this bill is kind of something that is just for California specifically, but because it's there, this has happened in the past where California does something like this, and it just kind of has a ripple effect where it basically makes it that's the way for everyone, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
Maybe not outside, but I'm hopeful that this will be the same thing here. It's like companies are going to be like, well, it's too difficult to make it state specific. It's one thing to make it country specific. That's a little easier to do. But to make it like state specific is not quite as easy. So
probably not going to be worth it.
Something like this, I think, will be beneficial for at least everyone in the U.S. and maybe even like Canada and Mexico, the continent, But we'll have to see how that goes.
There's pretty good way to see an example of this principle in action, listener, just pick up almost any product sitting nearby that has like plastics of any kind in it, and you'll probably find a Proposition 65 sticker on there somewhere that talks about how this product is known to the state of California to contain a chemical that causes cancer and birth defects. Like, that's a fairly ineffective thing that California has done that has affected all the products that we buy here in the United States. Because a lot of things contain chemicals that are known to cause birth defects and cancer if you consume them. But I don't know about you, California. I haven't eaten any computer monitors in the recent past.
Oh, you really ought to give it a try. They're quite tasty.
It's worth it. The cancer is worth it. Just eat those pixels. So yeah, it's of questionable utility, some of the things that California does, but I like this one because it's kind of like how all of the websites that you visit now all ask you whether you're okay with them sticking a bunch of cookies on your computer, and you can like actively reject that.
Yeah.
That's because of a thing that they did in the EU that said, hey, you have to do this on your websites. And then they just did it across the globe, because who wants to maintain two completely different websites that do things in completely different ways and run the risk of users in the EU getting fed the wrong website, and then they get a whole bunch of fines in Europe because of that. And so, yeah, they just made it that way for everybody. And honestly, I really like being able to deny my computer cookie access for all these websites, because it sucks to be them. I don't know. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah. And wouldn't that be great if just every time you went to a website, there was a sign up now button right at the top, and then down at the bottom of the page, it said, would you like to cancel? And there's just a button right there. You can just click on it. It'll ask for your, you sign in, ask your account details, and then it'll pop up a thing saying, are you sure you want to cancel? And when you click OK, it's like, all right. And that's the end of that conversation.
See, I'm hoping that this also goes into effect for, say, phone company like AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, maybe,
Holy
companies like
crap.
that. Because, like, even if it's as simple as being as easy as it is to unsubscribe from an email newsletter, like all you do is just click unsubscribe.
Yeah,
that's fine with me. I don't even. It doesn't necessarily have to be a giant button the same size as the sign up button. Just something that says click here to unsubscribe or click here to cancel. That's fine. And then it's just a simple like 1 or 2 clicks and you're done. Thank you.
Oh man, yeah. Do you know, as a subscriber to Comcast who was wanting to get off of Comcast, what I had to go through as a person who owned all of the equipment deployed in my house, what I had to go through to cancel Comcast.
Yeah.
That was such a pain in the butt. I didn't even bother with the phone tree because I knew that it wouldn't work. And so I went into the Comcast store and I sat down and I waited for like 25 minutes until somebody came to talk to me. And everybody who walked through the doors, I was all like, just turn around, leave. Nothing good comes from here. They finally talked to me and were like, okay, how can we help you today? And I'm like, I'm canceling my service at my address. And I had to validate a whole bunch of information with them. And then this guy was getting ready to jump into his sales speech. Like, I could tell the aura came over him. The facial expression changed. He was lining up his bullet points in his head. He was going to knock me down. He was going to talk until I succumbed. And then he asked me, so why do you want to cancel your service? And I said, because my city just installed fiber internet and I can get double the speeds for about the same price. And it's really, the kicker is the upload speed. I'm not willing to pay more money. I just want my upload speed to match my download speed. And they're giving me that for the same amount of money as I'm paying you. And he looked at me. He's like, oh, so you're from, names the city that I live in that had just been switching over to fiber. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, that, okay, so what are you getting for the $60 you're paying? And I'm like, yeah, I get 250 megabits per second up and down. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then he canceled it for me. The crestfallen expression on his face when he realized, oh no, it's another one of these guys from this place that is getting fiber, and we literally have no chance of competing. And then, like, a couple of years pass, and now the largest city in town around is switching over to Google Fiber.
Mm-hmm.
So not municipal fiber like we've got. Google Fiber, it's different. You have to sign up through Google. Okay, I prefer the municipal fiber route, but trust me, if my options were between Comcast and Google Fiber, I would take Google Fiber. And it is going to happen in droves. That Comcast store is going to be absolutely flooded for like the next 6 months with people that are canceling and switching over to Google Fiber. And all I can say is, Comcast, I hope you die.
Yeah.
Anyways, it would be great if this spilled over into that as well, because that, honestly, I didn't own any of their modems. I didn't own their modem. I didn't have their router. I had my own router hooked up to my own modem that I paid for with my own money. None of their equipment was in my house. I should have just been able to go onto my account on their website and click a button that says cancel my service.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have been like, okay, we'll turn it off on this date. And that should have been the end of that experience. So, yeah. Boy, California, I really hope this works.
Yes. I mean, we'll find, I think it's 9 months from now is what I saw, something like that, maybe roughly.
Yeah.
So that's when the bill goes into effect. So hopefully by
Fingers
then
crossed,
we will see. I mean, we'll probably get some articles and stuff. We'll update you when that happens. So I'm very much looking forward to see how this plays out.
Oh boy. What fun. What fun. All right. Well, that's good news. I'm going to take over now. I don't have good news, listener. I have not really even so much like a ton of news. So the bullet point on our sheet here that we're going off of for this episode of the podcast states this as Caleb's going to whine about processors for a minute under the pretense of educating everyone. So let's talk about some upcoming processors from both AMD and Intel. Now, listen. The processor space for PC computers over the past few years has been somewhat fraught and very, like, a lot of upheaval and motion, right? First off, you have Intel, who refused to meaningfully progress for so long that AMD had to release literally one good processor in order to steal just piles and piles and piles of their market share. And then AMD does, in fact, release one good processor. In fact, quite a few of them over the next few years, and starts raking in cash. It takes ages, absolutely ages, for Intel to finally turn around and start doing something based off of that. And then, once they do finally start doing that, you get a few years into that, and now Apple is like, you know what, Intel? It's not working. You're not changing fast enough. We're going to make our own processors. And we get an ARM revolution on the Macintosh side of the computing landscape. Completely changes how everybody looks at ARM-based computers. It just does. And from that, you have Microsoft then starts courting Qualcomm to make processors for their computers. Couple of misses before they finally got one that sort of hits. And that, that just recently happened, those Copilot Plus PCs and all that stuff with Qualcomm processors in them. And that was a big thing. And that happened at the same time that AMD released or started announcing and then releasing the 9000 series of the Ryzen processors, which, and I quote a headline that I saw, is their least or their worst processor launch since the FX Bulldozer line of CPUs, which, if you're well, I don't know, if you're keeping up on your processor history, that's like a 14-year-old line of processors. It's kind of old, but that's the stuff that they released right before they just about went out of business, brought in Dr. Lisa Su to hopefully save the company, and then turned around Ryzen, which did in fact save the company. That's why she still has the job. So, the 9000 series has not been going great for AMD, and Qualcomm is doing their whole thing with their, what are they calling the processors that they've stuck in the Copilot PCs again? I can't even remember what.
Something stupid, I'm sure. I don't remember.
It was. Qualcomm's bad at naming things, let's be honest, but it was, I don't know, Max. I don't know. We'll call it Max. Anyways, so a lot of shakeup, a lot of things been happening in the processor space, and Intel, at the same time as that is happening, has been having all kinds of issues with the past couple of generations of their processors overheating and dying and just cooking themselves on voltage. So yeah, stuff's been happening. In the midst of this upheaval, we have, just over the past few months, been given announcements of upcoming processors from both Intel and AMD. This is Intel's 15th generation of Core processors and the Ryzen processors, which I can't call the 10,000 series line. Zen 5 is the core that they're built on, right? So the Zen architecture is what underpins all of the Ryzen processors, and usually you have multiple generations on a single iteration of it. And so this, the past few years we've been on Zen 4, but moving on to Zen 5. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of these. First of all, let's just mention the upcoming 15th generation CPUs from Intel. We're expecting to see, a little while ago, they stopped putting I in front of the 9 and 7 and 5 and 3 in their Core series of processors, replaced it with Core Ultra or just Core whatever the number is, so that you can tell the difference between the chips that are built on the latest technology and the chips that are technically in this generation, but actually using the technology from last generation, because Intel hates you. I'm not sure if you knew this. So their top of the line one, to follow up the Core 14900K whatever from last year, is the Core Ultra 9 285K. Now, 285 is a number that I'm sure you are aware, listener, does not come after 1,400. Wait, hold on. 14,900 in numerical order, significantly before that, in fact. And you may be wondering to yourself, did we have like a 200 series of Core processors? And actually, yes, we did. Many, many years ago, back in the early days of the Core Duo line of processors, there was a Core Duo that was a 200 something. And so, yeah, we are now cycling back in their naming to numbers that, as far as I can tell, just looking at the SKUs that have been rumored, actually not even rumored, the rumors, there are rumors associated with, but it's all around like what the base clock speeds are going to be, what the turbo clock speeds are going to be. The actual lineup of the SKUs that they're going to be shipping, these have been announced by Intel. And we've got, the Core Ultra 9 285K. Then you've got the Core Ultra 7 265K. And then the Core Ultra 5 245. And then also the Core Ultra 5 has a 235 and a 225 in there as well. So for the life of me, I cannot figure out what these numbers mean, because it used to be that it was the generation, right? 14,900 meant that it was the 14th generation. 900 was like where it was in terms of the other processors, right? 900 is the best. And then it goes down from there, right? And then before that, it was 13,900. And then you had the 12900 and the 10900, which was stupid. I thought it was dumb when they went from 9 to 10. If they were going to change the naming scheme, that was the time to do it, but they didn't. It was 5 years ago, guys. So that's just baffling. I don't know how to interpret any of these numbers at this point, and I feel like this is just Intel deliberately trying to make their SKUs harder to process for the average consumer, so that when you go to grab grab a laptop or something that has an Intel sticker on it, you're going to look at the processor, your eyes are going to glaze over, you're going to have no idea what you're actually paying for or whether it's a fair price. That's how this feels to me. And I was like, wow, Intel, in this time right now, when you're honestly struggling to be a profitable company at all, this is how you wanted to change your relationship to consumers. Let's see how that plays out for you. And then AMD comes along and is all like, hey, we have a whole line of processors that are going to compete with the new Qualcomm processors for, the whole Copilot plus whatever stuff, which, to be fair, apparently Intel's 15th generation processors are going to do the same thing. They're capable of doing the same things and more than what the Qualcomm processors do. And also, hey, they don't need emulation to run software. So Qualcomm's latest hotness may just be a fart in the bag again, which is like the third time this has happened to them with Windows laptops. So
yeah,
feels bad, man. Anyways, AMD comes along and is all like, hey, check it out. It's the AMD Ryzen AI9 HX370.
Did they hire the people from Sony?
I wanted to die in that moment.
Wow.
So now, from what I understand, this is supposed to be a laptop SKU. And in the past, AMD's Ryzen laptop processors were named a little bit differently. So like they would have the Ryzen 9 8000 series something or other, because 7000 series was desktop CPUs, 8000 was laptop CPUs. Nobody knows why they decided to do it that way, but that's how they decided to do it. And they have released 9000 CPUs that are desktop things. And so these were their laptop chips. And so instead of jumping from, the 9000 up to 10,000, which I guess they could have done, but then they would have felt too much like Intel, they decided to completely change the scheme for naming their laptop chips entirely, which is just to be just like Intel, because Intel's doing exactly that right now. And yeah, so, the HX in there, I kind of understand, because the HX previously meant that this was the highest tier laptop chip, right? You'd have the 8000, the Ryzen 9 8000, whatever HX, and that's the best one, right? And so the other chip that they announced is the Ryzen AI 9 365. So without the HX. Okay, so the HX still means that, I guess. But first of all, why did you put AI between Ryzen and 9? Like, yes, I know that it's got like your new AI accelerator thing dealio going on in there, but like, freaking why? Nobody actually cares. No consumers want to know.
It's because they want these to be used for more than just Copilot Plus PCs. So they didn't put Copilot Plus in the name of the processor. They just put AI.
Oh, you're
not that
so
these are going to
right,
be used
and
for
I hate
anything
it.
besides Copilot Plus PCs, but just in case,
Yeah. Well, and then what does 370 mean? Why is 365 different? There's an HX in the first one, but not in the second one. So that means the first one is better than the second one. Okay, but why did the number go down as well? Are they actually different SKUs of processor? I guess maybe they are. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the naming schemes for either Intel or AMD right now, listener. And I'm very annoyed and frustrated with this. Now, that being said, AMD is, from the specs that they have released about these things, they're putting, these are APUs, right? These are not just a CPU. They include graphics. They have built-in graphics, which most Ryzen CPUs do these days. But up to this point, while they have been better than integrated graphics on the Intel side, they've all lagged quite a ways behind the discrete graphics that you could get from pretty much anything. They're okay for playing simple games, but they have about the same graphical output as like an RX 480 or something like that, which is a 8-year-old process or 8-year-old graphics card at this point, 8 or 9 years. It's been a while. So, like that's kind of what we've been operating on for integrated graphics. These new ones are supposed to have significantly more powerful integrated graphics, actually to the point where based on the just, what they're reporting about the number of graphics cores that they have and so on and so forth, might be roughly equivalent to like a 7600 XT, which is a late model graphics card, like mid-range graphics card from AMD, just built into the CPU. And that screams to me Steam Deck 2, something like that. Handheld PCs that are going to be really great for gaming. And that's cool. So I think that, the engineers at Intel who have apparently managed to make a thing that is outperforming the thing that Qualcomm was supposed to be really good at, that they worked really closely with Microsoft on, despite the fact that Qualcomm literally just released that thing. So yeah, good job, Intel. Your engineers did a great job. And AMD going the route of releasing these high-end laptop processors with actual mid-tier integrated graphics, that's awesome. I love that. It's like I don't have a problem with these products. I just hate the marketing departments at both of these companies that are responsible for assigning them names. Just stop. Like, as much as I kind of hate Apple's, well, a lot of things that Apple does, their naming schemes for the processors are clear as day. We've got an M1, got an M2, got an M3, and inside of each of those tiers, higher number means better. And inside each of those tiers, we got us a Pro, we got us a Max, we got us an Ultra. In that order. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. It's pretty straightforward. And we just can't over here with AMD and Intel. Guys, holy cow, please, for the love of all that is holy. I would say stop, but they're not gonna. It's just gonna. So I don't know. It strikes me as kind of blatantly anti-consumer behavior, but I don't know what to do about it because everybody is doing it. So it's not like, oh yeah, just don't buy processors from Intel because your only other option is AMD, and they're doing the exact same thing. So good fortune to you, listener, in these dark and perilous times in which we find ourselves. Good luck. If I ever do, in fact, figure out what these naming schemes are supposed to represent and how they relate to reality, I'll try and give you the lowdown, but remains to be seen if I'm going to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that.
That's me. If you don't feel educated and you instead just feel sad and frustrated, that's probably because that's how I feel. And I don't know what to tell you. Anywho.
I don't know how else to feel after that, honestly.
Right, exactly. Okay, let's move on to gaming. This week in gaming, in the coming weeks in gaming, in fact, Diablo 4 getting an expansion. It's called Vessel of Hatred. It is going to include more content for the story of Diablo 4 and probably more of the open world stuff that Diablo 4 has going on. I don't really pay attention to any of that, though, so I'm afraid I can't help. But story, there's more campaign, and they're probably going to want me to pay for it in order to play that additional campaign, because I just played it on Game Pass for the main campaign, and I don't know if I'm going to buy both the game and the expansion just to find out what the additional story is. So
yeah,
but they don't usually include the expansions in Game Pass stuff. So
yeah, the ad that I saw for this did say pre-order now or pre-purchase now.
Yeah,
is what it was. It was not even a pre-order; it's pre-purchase. It's like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting though is that is it really a purchase, because the thing is a entirely online open world multiplayer type experience, and so if they stop supporting servers for it, then you're not going to be able to play it anymore. So are you actually buying the game? Kind of feel like maybe not. I kind of feel like you might just be licensing it, which, I mean, I will say, if anybody is going to maintain this game until the heat death of the universe, it's Blizzard. Yeah. Even the current Blizzard that we have right now, who kind of sucks in a lot of ways, I can still take my original CD keys for Diablo 2, go download Diablo 2 off of their website using those keys, install it, and play on Battle.net. Like, that's a thing I can still do. I can still hook up frickin' the original Diablo to the internet and play on Battle.net. I can still jump into, like, original CD keys of StarCraft. Like, not even Brood War. Actual pants, just original StarCraft.
Yeah.
And go on Battle.net and play multiplayer games with people across the world. All of these things exist. So Blizzard maintains their games for a really long time. But to be clear, listener, you will not be pre-purchasing Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. You will be pre-licensing Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. And you know what they're going to give you for the privilege? A pet. Like, in the game. It follows you around, picks up gold.
I wanted them to send me a real-life puppy.
That's it. Look, if they sent me an actual pants, like, hell demon dog thing, then I would pre-order the game. That's what it would take, though. So, but there you go. October 8th, that's coming. If you are excited for it, that's cool. I would say wait and actually buy it once it's out and you can confirm it's not going to install a virus on your computer and crash everything.
Or
because
also
that's
known
the
as
kind
Windows
of thing
11.
that happens. Oh, gosh. Yeah, which actually I guess that is a thing that Windows has done recently. You know, the recall thing, that's coming back.
What if this is just one big, like, it's just a big ruse to get people to do, like, it's like you go to download this and it literally just downloads Windows 11 on your computer.
I mean, listen, Blizzard is owned by Microsoft now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So, like, you're going to go to download Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred and it's going to install Windows 11. You're going to end up with recall turned on by default.
Oh, this portion of the game requires Windows 11 and also requires Windows recall. Ooh. But it's already been installed. They tell you that after the fact, and then you can't uninstall it.
Yep.
No refunds.
Oh, downgrade's not possible. Boy, they're sounding more and more like Apple as the days go by. Windows, stop it. Please.
All the bad parts.
Get some help. Exactly. All right. So, listener, that's actually it in terms of the news that I've got. Not a ton going on right at this moment, though, like I said, in the next couple of months, we are going to see some events from Apple and possibly some actual processor launches from AMD and Intel and so on and so forth. But unless Landon has one more thing.
This is not getting the air horn because this is an unfortunate one more thing.
Oh boy.
So, listener,
here we go.
If you listened to the last time I had one more thing, I mentioned how Flappy Bird is coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't have the whole story that came out like later the week that we recorded that episode.
Oh, of course. Always
has to happen that way. So, not as good of a return as we were expecting or thinking it was going to be. So basically, the actual story of how Flappy Bird is coming back is these people behind the Flappy Bird Foundation aren't actually the greatest people out there. The main guy, his name's Michael Roberts. He's the chief creative person behind Flappy Bird Foundation. He's also really into NFTs and crypto and all that fun stuff.
Oh, gosh.
So there's a lot of people really worried that this Flappy Bird is just going to be, a big, that's how they're going to make their money is NFTs and crypto and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
powered by the blockchain. But why?
Basically. And also, like, the original creator of Flappy Bird put out on Twitter not that long after these stories started to come out. He's like, no, I have nothing. As his words exactly, he's like, he doesn't speak English as his first language, so just let that pass. But he says, no, I have no related with their game. I did not sell anything. So basically what happened was the company that Flappy Bird Foundation bought the rights from, in a way, didn't sue the original creator, but they went to the U.S. Patent Office and said, hey, this guy's not doing anything with these things. Can we, like, and so, like, the Patent Office sent him, tried to notify him, hey, someone is contesting this patent and trademarks and stuff like that. But because he doesn't live in the United States, he didn't get any of these notifications. He didn't get the letters or anything from the Patent Office. So they just basically handed it off to this other company. So that's not fun. And then this Flappy Bird Foundation people bought this stuff from them. I can't even remember who this other company is. But it's like none of this really is actually that good. So when this new version of Flappy Bird comes out, just don't even try. Don't download it.
Yeah. No.
On the better side of things, if you are an Android user or you're an iOS user in the EU, there is a Flappy Bird clone now available. It is available on GitHub. You do have to sideload it onto your device. That's why I said if you're on Android or if you're on iOS in the EU, you can do this. But there is a Flappy Bird clone available there. The benefit of it being on GitHub is it is open source. And so, yes, there's going to be bugs, but they tend to get fixed really quickly because people that actually care about the software put their stuff on GitHub and open source.
They can just go fix it.
They can just go fix it. So, the reviews I've seen of it so far is, yes, there were some bugs, but a couple hours later, those bugs were gone because it got reported and people fixed it. So, there you go. If you want to go play it, do it that way because then you're getting basically the real version of Flappy Bird that doesn't have crypto and who knows what else behind it. And
exactly. Or, listener, just to follow up with what I said when we talked about this last time, you could just not play it. It's a bad game. It's bad. I don't know why is everybody trying to make clones of Flappy Bird. It's bad. It's a bad game. I don't get it. It's not fun. It's just incredibly frustrating. And actually, there's if you want to enjoy Flappy Bird in the year of our Lord 2024, go onto YouTube, look up the Code Bullet YouTube channel, and he's got a fairly recent. It will be in the last 2 or 3 of his videos, which means that it was probably released, I don't remember when, 8 months ago. He does not release very frequently. But he did a video about remaking Flappy Bird. The video's title is Everything is a Game Engine. And it's really funny. He makes a version of Flappy Bird that plays on the Windows desktop using program windows that just pop up and float across the desktop. It's super freaking bizarre. But it's really funny. It's entertaining. That is the only way to enjoy Flappy Bird. Downloading the game and trying to play it, you will not enjoy it. So you have been forewarned. There you go.
You know what I want to put out into the universe now that needs to happen? Either a Flappy Bird version inside of Doom or Doom inside of Flappy Bird.
Doom inside of Flappy Bird.
One of those two things need to happen now.
I would pay good money for that. I'll be honest. That would be amazing. Well, of course, it turns out that something that seems like it might be good is actually NFTs and crypto.
Yeah.
Once again. Welcome to the universe in which we live, listener. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that was depressing, but that's where we're going to end. We're going to end our episode. Listener, thank you so much for joining us this week. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can do that on our website, callingallplatforms.com. You can also reach us on social medias, Calling All Platforms on Facebook and CapTechPod on Twitter. which is still called Twitter. I don't know why everybody else has been using a letter to describe it. That's just flipping bizarre. You can also find us on YouTube, Calling All Platforms Tech and Calling All Platforms Gaming. There's nothing new up there, but if you want to find older videos, then they're on there. I tend to not publish any more frequently than Code Bullet, as the case may be. You can also find us right here in the podcasting app of your choice next week. So until then, bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.